Hi, everybody. I'm David. I'm with IMI. We're the East Coast reps for Exacqvision. You probably know IMI from your local friendly faces, the folks who are reaching out to you to get you involved with the call today. So again, my thanks to them getting you involved today. If this is the first call that you've joined on for us, well, thank you so much for giving us some of your time here. And you've picked a great topic. I mean, a familiar software for maybe many folks on the call, and excited to maybe show you some items that have been added that you maybe didn't even realize got slipped into a release over time here, or maybe a new feature that it would be worth upgrading for. So excited to get to show you guys that. And for folks who are returning, who've hopped on these webinars before, thank you so much for joining again. It really is flattering, that this offers value to you guys, that you're going to give me half an hour of your time to go through and hopefully learn some new things about different products that we work with and different solutions that are available to solve security needs. So really do appreciate you. Time is valuable, and we do recognize that. So thank you so much for that. So without further ado, just to give you the basic rundown, I know you see a title slide PowerPoint here. We're really not going to be spending any time in PowerPoint. This is for the most part going to be a live demonstration for you guys. So I want to run through really some different updates that personally that I think are some of my favorites that have been added over the last couple years, and things that I think when I do trainings and things like that, I do a lot of trainings with end users, with dealers. I do a lot of these webinars virtually for folks. And, little features that have been added that I find surprise people when I bring them up in a training. So I thought it would be a great time to take just a brief bit, go through some of my favorites that have been added in that maybe you saw were there and didn't quite realize, how you might be able to use it. Maybe it was added and just, it's a little checkbox in the setting menu that you didn't even know was in there. So again, very excited to go through these with you. So without further ado, the first thing I actually want to start with is the website. I get some folks who let me know, sometimes we feel like we don't brag enough when we're coming out with updates and what's being added to the system. If you go to our main website, Exacq.com, I don't know if they did it just because I announced this seminar, but they put a great banner right up there. It's the very, second one there now, the signing up for the quarterly newsletter. We come out with quarterly updates, so there's always going to be something new in this, new cameras that we're working with, new integrations that we've added, and plenty of times new features that we've slipped into the software too. So updates to mobile apps, additions like body-worn cameras. That's a huge one that actually I think they did a seminar just on the body-worn camera integration. And that's something that's coming to a lot of fields. That's something that we've been asked a lot about, and that's something that comes in an update like this, in one of our quarterly updates. So if you have folks that are asking about that, if it's something you've looked at for your operation, that's something that you can take advantage of in the Exacq software that you're already familiar with. So that's something to talk to your local IMI rep about, how that gets added in. I know a lot of people think law enforcement for that, but it goes way beyond that. We're seeing airline customers use that, a lot of service industry customers that are public facing. It feels like boiling points can reach a little high these days. So that can be a really handy thing just to have available to any group. And that's really a big part of the reason that folks do these updates. Probably the number one reason people are coming to do these updates is because we've added, new cameras from our partners to the system so that, this can be a broader solution, taking advantage of the latest technology for you guys. And every time I come up here, it feels like we've got more. We finally breached that 5,000 camera model on there that you see. So more than 5,000 supported models, 99 different brands of cameras. So we let you paint with such a wide swath. And this is something that if you're not doing updates periodically, once a year maybe, you're missing out if you go to add cameras later. There's something to be aware of, that the newest cameras are going to need the newest software to be able to take advantage of their features, because they just weren't out in older versions of the software. But beyond just the cameras themselves, as I mentioned, what I wanted to focus on for our seminar today are some of the features that have gotten added. So you guys should be able to see my Exacqvision software. This is our classic look, should be very familiar to a lot of folks. One thing that I wanted to start off with right off the bat, client optimization, some ways to really update and refresh the look and functionality of the interface just by playing with my local client settings. For a lot of folks, if you've had the software for a long time, especially, this has been our look, our theme as it is, our icons forever. But we've updated that. So if you wanted something that personally I think would be a little bit more of a modern, intuitive iconography, I mean, the little bubble views are almost mimicking the old CRT TVs on here. If you go into the settings, one place I'm not sure too many folks actually play with is their local client settings. There's some really nice options in this menu that any user can take advantage of, Pro, Enterprise, that have been added in here. And this is a menu that I don't think too many people check back in, myself included, other than now I kind of know that we've got new features that'll pop up within here. And one of the ones I want to point to right off the bat is this select a theme option. You see kind of in the middle left-hand side. By default, it always starts off as classic. I would ask maybe technicians who are on the call, I always switch it over now to the light theme or the dark theme. Personally, the dark theme is my favorite. It's easier on my eyes without all the white light on my monitor. I think it's great for video wall stations or public view monitor stations. I think it really makes the video pop. For a presentation purpose, though, the light theme, probably going to be easiest for folks to follow. So I'm going to apply that. It's going to take a moment, restart my software, and you're going to see everything's still in the same place. But it's just such a more modern look and feel. And what I would expect really from modern iconography. The tile layout's changed. I've got a very much clearer live. Search is just a simple magnifying glass now setting here. It's a simple change, but I think it's just such an important update to the software. It really makes it feel much more modern because it has become so much more modern. And there's a few other nice tweaks in this client menu as well. A lot of folks are using multi-sensor cameras. And if you look at our standard view, we've got these kind of little bars between to kind of separate the camera views artificially here. We usually put up a colored border, like you see this camera seeing motion, so I've got a blue border around it. If you've got multi-sensor cameras, that can kind of break up that 180 panorama or that 360. You can turn that off. You can get rid of that sunken border, the record status border. And when I flip back to that now, you see it's a smooth transition. Unfortunately, I don't have a 180 up here in my office giving an overview of this area, but you can now pull up and create these kind of stacked multi-sensor views without having to have those kind of artificial barriers between them. It can be great for fisheyes and things like that as well, that you can have these kind of sweeping views set up, a nice kind of maybe 270 or 180 multi-sensor without having those barriers necessarily between them. And then one that is just a must-have. This is probably my one. It's 1 and 1A. I have a hard time coming up with this, choosing which of the two is my favorite. This is one of my two favorite features that we've added to the software. Is this camera preview. It's off by default. So if you've updated your client system over time, you might have access to this already and just may not have noticed it, because again, it's kind of in the settings. I don't think too many of us, other than geeks like me, bury their head in there to really see what's been added. You have two options here: a thumbnail, which would be like a still image. It's a great way to kind of remind you what a camera is looking at. I'm going to opt for live video. And what this does now, anywhere where I have, say, a list of cameras, like on the left here, I can go and hover my mouse and actually peek at the live video. And I'm actually just going to pause on that camera in particular because the timestamp is so large. You can see that is a running camera. I know our offices aren't really as busy. We're not up to full speed in our offices yet, like many folks in many areas. But this is a great way to maybe kind of arrange my screen with a particular set of cameras. See, I've got all sorts of different options that I've canned here. This is one of my favorites because then I can go and grab one of these hallway view cameras maybe and stack it there. And that preview is just so helpful for me, making sure that I'm picking the right camera, especially with my demo systems. They're not all named like back lot. And even then, like maybe I've got multiple cameras looking at a parking lot, maybe back lot doesn't necessarily clue me in on what exactly it's looking at. So just that hover preview, it's a great way to kind of peek at cameras that maybe aren't critical enough to be on my screen all the time, while still, there you go, now you can see it's a live view, while still being able to focus and peek at them when I need to. This trick also works when you're working with a map. Let me actually pull up Got a little map of my office here. And I've actually laid out on here some camera views with the field of view. That's another thing that was added, not too recently, but again, it can be a quiet one if you didn't happen to notice it in the release notes, these little fields of view that you can add. And even when I hover my mouse over a camera in my map, I get that little preview too. So this is great for live viewers. It's great when you're searching the system. That's when, you know, I don't want to go and search 20 of my cameras necessarily. It takes longer to load all that information. If I can just go to do a search and then hover my mouse and make sure I'm picking the right camera that I want to look at, just makes it that much easier. So thumbnail preview, again, under our client settings, it probably rounds out my little kind of client tweaks that I wanted to show you guys here, but that is one of my favorite features. That's 1 or 1A in terms of my favorite features they've added. Just so handy navigating the software, and that can be really handy for your live and playback search folks as well. All right, so another one that got added, and this is probably a more visible one, and it's kind of an iteration of something that we've had in the software for a while. One thing you'll notice, I'll actually pull up one of my office cameras here. One of the other things I love in the Exacq software, particularly for live operators, but it's helpful for folks searching too, are the camera links. I love these things, and I notice a lot of systems don't necessarily take advantage of them. And I think, again, that's kind of maybe over the years we've kind of buried the settings for that and been a little quiet about some of the nice updates and tweaks that we've done to that. What the camera links are, it's this on-screen button area that you see that I've set up. You can have it on the side of the camera, you can move it to the bottom. It's very configurable, and it's a great way to put little shortcuts to features that would normally be a few clicks away, like right-clicking to go turn on your digital zoom, or to do the quick search on our cameras, the Exacq replay, things like that. You can just put on-screen toggles that are much easier for folks, and for folks who are using a touch screen, you know, even nicer at that point. And they're actually really easy to set up. A little change they've made in the client over the relatively recently has really just made it easier to get at that. If you're familiar from an administrator's perspective or from a setup perspective, if you right-click on a camera, Properties tells you about that camera, and it can help you jump to the settings for that camera if you're an administrator. Associations is the menu where we set up these on-screen buttons. So we've got a great tutorial that'll go through this in depth on the website, but just to show you now how easy it is to jump to that, it's brought me right to the settings for this camera where I can see what existing buttons I have. I can choose where do I want that action bar so that it's kind of out of my way and not covering things. Do I want it to hide when I'm not hovering my mouse? I kind of forget stuff's there if it's hidden, so I always have mine showing. You can show labels, you can change text color. It's configurable almost to a fault. You can really tweak this to be, you know, exactly displayed how you want it. And then underneath are all the controls. Some common ones here you see, like a record video toggle that's going to turn on and off like panic recording on a particular camera. I have my system tied into one of our integration partners. In my case, it's Cantech Access Control, and I've got a door release button on here. Another one we'll be talking about, you'll see suspect tracking on here. That's going to lead me to another feature that's probably my next favorite feature that's been added. One little known thing about this too that I think adds to the usability, and this is a more recent update. Traditionally, if we wanted to do things with like relays, we were going to wire our door release, but not a door, but maybe a gate to go up and down, we would have very generic icons for setting that up. Now I can add something like a trigger that's going to hit a relay or an output on a camera or on our USB adapter to go and maybe release or roll up a gate for somebody. I can add that as a clickable button, and I can actually go in and create my own custom icons. So I can go and create an icon group. I can actually import things like gate icons and things like that. So you can actually really tweak it so that it's very obvious now what some of these on-screen buttons are on-screen in a way that just wasn't available to you before. It'd be little light bulbs, and having 8 light bulbs on your camera, not the most intuitive thing when you're trying to use that feature at that point. So associations, very easy to add. Another nice thing on here, you see there's this apply to. One common thing I do, I pick a few buttons like my replay menu, my panic record, my digital zoom toggle, and I apply that to all my cameras so that every camera's got those 3 basic things on. Really straightforward to set up now, especially now that we've made accessing that menu for the administrators so direct and so easy. Now, one of the buttons that shows up on here is, again, if I had to pick a 1 or 1A between thumbnails, previews, and the suspect tracking here, I have a hard time doing it. Suspect tracking is a navigational tool that shows up on the bottom bar here as part of your camera links. Suspect tracking is basically adding links to nearby cameras so that it's easy to jump from one camera to the next. So when I turn on my toggles, let's say from a live view perspective here, somebody walked into my front office, walked underneath the camera here, and they're very quickly out of view. When I turn on my suspect tracking, well, I've got a link here that I can double click. It's going to automatically switch to that next camera that I've already linked to that area, and I've got a little return link here. And it makes the system, rather than going to the left-hand side here to try to find, even with the thumbnail previews, find that next camera. Maybe if I'm lucky, I know the name of it and I can type in the name of it here. But if I don't bring it up too quickly, well, odds are pretty good whatever I'm following, the vehicle going across my parking lot, the person walking down my hallways, they're already out of view at that point. So this is really just to make it easy to navigate from that one camera to the next. It makes it a kind of click to follow system, as opposed to constantly going to the left here for whatever camera isn't already on my screen. Not that that's tough, it's just if you don't do it quick enough, you've already lost the person you've gone into a search. And this is real easy to set up on a particular camera. If I right click, I go to properties. If you're an administrator, you have the ability to jump to the settings page for this camera. And you're going to see now amongst the tabs for your camera settings, that suspect tracking, where I can make a new region. Let's say this door leads out to our parking lot. I can say, all right, that's the door. You know what? Green doesn't show up too well. Maybe I want to make this one kind of a light purple. Sure. And then I pick my camera. It's really straightforward to set up. And again, this is a callback, is what they call in the stand-up comedy stuff, a callback. You'll see if I'm trying to figure out which camera I want to link it to, that helpful hover thumbnail preview is still there. So I can find that particular camera, get my little preview. Yeah, that's the one that that links to. Select that, apply it. It's that easy. So now I can double click that link. Jumps me out to the parking lot. I've got maybe links that go to other parking lot cameras. So if I'm following a car going from across different views, great for those multi-sensor cameras. You may not always have all 4 sensors up on your screen at once. It's a great way to jump from one sensor to the next and back as you're following vehicles, pedestrians, again, people down your hallways. There's just so many uses for this. And it's great from a live view perspective. I think it pays even bigger dividends searching. Just like that thumbnail preview, it's there when I'm searching too. So if I'm looking at my back parking lot, I'm reviewing video, and we'll use our imagination. Oh, perfect. Everyone don't have to use much imagination. We find someone coming up to the building here, and I want to continue my search. Well, I can turn on my suspect tracking links. I double click. It's going to add that next camera to my search. Now, this is a little magic. I actually don't think that's the inner door right for that part of the parking lot. But that's the idea. Now, even on a search, I click to follow, and you look, it added another row to my search. But I can split screen. I can export together, so I don't have to cast this wide net and try to search across, a dozen cameras, and have it load all that video and then kind of whittle it down. I can start with the footage where I know it has the individual that I'm looking for, and then use this click to follow to really build the rest of the list of cameras that I want to look at that point. It makes it so much easier to go through and navigate that. A couple other items that I wanted to add on here. Wanted to shout out for our enterprise customers. There's some folks who've maybe been on the fence about whether or not professional or enterprise version of Exacqvision software is the right fit for you. Well, there's been some updates on that end too. Our enterprise customers, or if you looked at enterprise software before, you may be familiar up here with a button and a feature called Video Push. It's this little kind of monitor with the up arrow, at least in the new icons here. Makes it very obvious what that's doing. I can push video from my screen to another location that's set up and it just had a checkbox saying it'll receive these pushes. So this is a great way to send video to public view monitors, to remote stations. You can even do it from the mobile app. I could be maybe a guard doing my rounds, looking at other sections of the building on my mobile app, see something that needs attention and push it to another station, to get it in front of somebody so that somebody else has eyes on it too. Well, we've evolved that feature in particular for folks who use video walls. We now have the ability, beyond just pushing just a single screen's worth of information, whether that's one camera or a multi-camera layout like I'd set up for over here. We have the ability now to push multiple screens worth of information at once. Just makes that much faster to go and set up a particular layout. I can send multiple monitors worth of information. We basically pre-configure how many monitors and which predetermined views are going to be going, and it's now 2 clicks to send that configuration to my group of video monitors on the wall for my security center. Or we call it video wall. That's a great way to batch push video to public view monitors that you maybe have stationed for different operations managers to be able to keep an eye on their area. I can get in the morning, or if there's any issues, I can just re-push all of those default screen configurations with a couple clicks from my client. Makes it so easy to manage, especially remotely at that point. Another item that we've added to our enterprise software is the ability to have web views as part of our everyday configurations here. So if I need to keep an eye on perhaps weather, if I have outdoor events that we're managing, things like that, you can lock these to specific websites so that I can maybe just stay within this weather app. I can make it so I have to stay on this particular page if I want it. It's also a great way for folks to be able to bring up their ESM. So I can actually monitor my full system health and get the full strength of ESM, that back-end manager, right within my client. I don't have to jump back and forth to go and peek at my overall system health. We do give you a little indicators menu, very helpful for your professional software. Again, another recent update. It's a great place where we stash health alerts for the systems that you're connected to, but you get so much more power out of ESM in terms of managing users across your machines and things like that. One of the recent items that we've added to ESM that has been a huge hit for the enterprise customers, particularly when you're managing multiple units, the ability to transfer licenses between your units now. So I can select maybe a server that's got some spare capacity, select a new server that I'm spinning up or a server that I'm expanding that needs a little bit more capacity, and transfer that capacity between the 2 units. So long as both units have their SSAs active so that you can do these updates, you can transfer licenses and manage your own unit licenses with the enterprise software and your enterprise recorders now. That was a really high demanded one. This is also nice too, because you can just get some licenses. Let's say you're going to be doing some future expansion. You haven't quite worked it all out yet. You just want to have stuff available because when you go to do it, you're going to need to do it quickly. We can add just generic licenses to your ESM, just waiting to be assigned to a server. So you can do that expansion when you need to, just by going to this transfer page. So very nice little addition to Enterprise Manager as well. Now, I want to leave the software here. There's a few items on the back end and a couple integration pieces that I wanted to touch on over our last few minutes here before getting to the Q&A section. So I'm going to bring my browser back. A couple things that I wanted to touch on that have been added into the software recently are on the integration side. And a few of them, I think, really speak to our open approach. So Exacq, we love to say that I know a lot of people love to say that they're open because they support ONVIF. I think Exacq truly takes the real open approach in terms of API integrations. We're not trying to be everything to everybody. We want to be that hub at the center of the wheel where we've got spokes going out to all these different pieces that make your security operation and just your business work at that point. So to that end, rather than try to come up with our own analytics, our own operational reports, we partner with others, even sometimes other divisions within TYCO. That's oftentimes third-party entities, like you saw the 99 different camera manufacturers that we support on the camera side. Some of the new stuff that if you hadn't been poking around the website or you hadn't seen some of the notices for the seminars that have been added, we've partnered up with another internal team to bring some analytics in addition to the numerous third-party analytics for things like face mask detection and for pass fail lists on face matching. So you can set up intelligent alerts for people coming in through your perimeter. If someone's been banned from your premises, well, then coming into view of one of your entrance cameras can trigger an alert now to let you know that that person's on the premises. If you're in a space where you have to use regulations for masks, you know, hospital spaces, things like that, airports perhaps, you know, we can have that analytic now to be able to be tied in and just fully managed and operated within Exacqvision. Actually, up on YouTube, they've got a nice little video on it that I'll play just a little bit of here. So able to trigger alerts within the software, pop-ups, all of the normal workflows that you would normally get from within Exacqvision, you have access to and are triggerable from either pass-fail from enrolled faces or by face mask detection if you're using that to reinforce that. And in addition, just one of the things I mentioned, camera integrations, but camera integrations really is only a small part of it. That's been a big push for us, is to integrate more analytics from third parties. In particular, camera analytics. We have more and more folks that are starting to put analytics into their cameras. You see folks like Axis on here, Hanwha on here, a number of different folks into Vision. There's somebody local up to us in Massachusetts, actually, where I'm out of. Another one that's been added, if you're interested in plate detection, we've had a long integration with PlateSmart. That's great for our enterprise customers. It integrates with our Exacqvision enterprise software to do the fuzzy detection, so you have searchable databases of your plates coming through. A newer partner for that you see on here, Vaxstore. They work with our professional as well as enterprise software, so it's a great way to bring that feature set to our pro customers. Another nice thing too, it's a software package that's really meant to work with traditional CCTV cameras. I actually think they have an applet that is able to run on the Axis cameras. So it's a great way to bring that into Exacqvision, a nice easier way to deploy plate detection for customers that maybe traditionally it would have been just a bit too difficult or too costly to. Just more options in here all the time. You know, there's new folks in here. I don't know who Scylla is actually. And beyond just the video analytics, you'll see a lot of these analytics now are also like business intelligence focused. So they're using these as sensors, not just for security purposes, but to get actionable business information as well. And I think that's a big growth piece you see in Exacq. And we do even have within the client itself the ability to run more kind of pie chart style reports now that you may have been wondering. If you've clicked on that button and wondered why we have some of these types of reports in here, it's really for that business intelligence minded customer as well. Now, one last thing, we're just at 10 o'clock. I did want to mention one other item on here. Your best check another great place to learn about these new features. If you go to our support page on our website, you'll see user training videos. It's a great place to see all the latest stuff that's been added and learn about a particular area of the software you're trying to navigate. If you go to our full video library, you can actually see them by what's newest on here. And this is where you'll find a video on the cloud-hosted relay. I know I mentioned that in the brochure. This is great for customers that maybe don't have a good means of offering secure access to remote users to get access to the video. My personal #1 favorite is a VPN connection, because you own every piece of that infrastructure. You get to set passwords for everybody. You get all the auditing in that. For enterprise customers, that's still, I think, at least my personal means of doing it, my favorite. But I don't have the ability to do that from my office here, so I use the Exacq cloud-hosted relay service. So this is an encrypted connection from my server to the cloud that now I get a URL routing through the cloud to be able to draw that video. So this is something I would test out. Some folks' firewalls, I've had a couple of folks let me know that there seems to be some firewall tweaks that you might need to do despite being a TCP. I'm guessing for more enterprise customers that probably have that VPN style capability in their firewall infrastructure. There may be some tweaks on some really amplified ones to make sure that that outbound connection, the return traffic and everything is stable and there, but really handy for folks, again, like myself that don't normally have the ability of doing that short of port forwarding at my office. So that can be a handy one for customers where that's not an ability, and a nice little reason to update, along with the secure connections that you get to our cameras too. All right, we're a little bit past. I appreciate folks for staying on with me. Now we're going to be able to get to our Q&A portion. So I'm going to take a look through the chat here. Doesn't look like anything really came in through the chat. Folks are able to take themselves off mute. I appreciate everybody staying muted through the call itself, but if you have any questions at all about these features, other questions generally about Exacq, stuff that I can handle, we also have a wealth of folks from Exacqvision and from IMI on the line who are all able to tackle questions as well. Is the relay service free? That is a great question. So it is a free service. Now, for the life of your NVR, you can connect to it. If your SSA is active, you get the best use of it because there's no throughput limitations when you have an active SSA. And all of our Exacqvision servers come with a minimum 3 years of updates, which again is going to get you the access to the unlimited relay service. The only limit that's imposed once that's expired, we don't turn it off for you. We just limit the video to 1080p that you're looking at on your mobile or your web experience at that point. But great question. And it's an easy answer for me because it is. Exacq loves some of these add-on services that aren't, directly, monetized by us. Another one, again, our integrator service portal. Another great one for our integrators to take advantage of, a free resource for them for monitoring units. The integration with CanTech and DSC, can I expand on the benefits of these? Absolutely. I mean, that's a topic in itself, so I'll try not to go overboard here. But within my Exacqvision software, some of my favorite things that you get on there, again, I use that right here in my office. The ability to go and just see who is the last person through a door. I can kind of get that quick monitoring. I can actually do my basic door controls from the system here as well. And in particular with CanTech, when you're searching, well, not only can I search the activity of a particular camera, I can also search the activity on a particular reader as well. And I can do that for my DSC system. So you get some audit capabilities as well as live controls across both systems, and I can export all this together as well. Okay, looks like this one's probably a better one for Exacq folks, so that's one I may have to, unless someone from Exacq wants to take this one and unmute, one I may have to follow up with you. Craig, are they stopping integration to Hikvision and Dawa? I don't know that there's an active policy to stop that. Usually it's demand driven in terms of just where we're putting our engineering team on task with doing those updates. So if there's particular models that you need, that's something I would interact with your IMI folks. Let us know what models, and we'll work with the team to make sure that's on the list to get integrated at that point. When it comes to firmware updates for cameras, we've seen many times we upgrade Exacq, we lose features from cameras. Is there a plan to make things fully backwards compatible? That's a great question. Oh, sorry, John, just before I get into that one, John Stewart chimed in. So they are continuing the integration of Hike and Dow. Okay, I figured that. Thank you, John, for jumping in and just making that 100% confirmed. So in terms of making things fully backwards compatible, I mean, I know I'll give engineering team credit for this. I'm sure they do their best. I mean, certain cameras, I mean, there are brands and models of cameras that have actually, cease to be. That technically are still supported. We can bring them into the software, but as we update things, sometimes there's just limitations of older firmware that prevent us from bringing things in, or there's no longer sometimes a manufacturer to work with. But if there's particular issues, again, it sounds like this is probably related to something particular because it looks like it's something you've experienced. I would, again, engage with your local IMI folks. We can work with the engineering team. I can't say that it's always going to necessarily be possible to keep that full level of support for older cameras, just by, I just named a couple of the limitations there. But, if we can, we try to. So that's certainly something to be able to bring up with the IMI team. And I think overall for 5,000 cameras worth of integration, I do think they generally do a very good job of that. One thing just to keep in mind too, as you're working with these older cameras, sometimes, I don't know, if you're updating and it's already connected, I don't think this would be an issue. Sometimes certain cameras want to come in via ONVIF as opposed to their API, maybe especially if it's a newer version of ONVIF or something like that. So every now and then, maybe that might be at play as well. Let's see, this one, tech support, we're having an issue remote supporting systems that have Hikvision or DAWA. Again, this sounds like a particular one. If you have a ticket number or something like that, I would follow up with your local rep, maybe John Stewart in line as well. Because again, to my knowledge, there shouldn't be much issue supporting some of these. I know cybersecurity, obviously, anytime we're remoting anywhere, comes into play. But I don't know that that's particularly, a concern, remote supporting certain systems that are connected to particular cameras or not. John, thank you for putting your contact info in there. Want to make sure we get those resolved for you. Any other questions? I'm keeping my eye on the chat here. Again, you guys, if you're brave, you can unmute yourself. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got while we've got you on the line. And I know how this goes too. I'll be like walking the dog later and think, oh my God, I didn't say this on the call and I had everybody there. Don't worry about it. If you have any questions that come up later on, you can always email me, email your local IMI rep to get answers. And we can really dive deep with you at that point on particulars for an install that you're working on, a solution that you're trying to work up, trainings, anything like that, that we can further help with. But questions come anytime. It's never a bad time to hit reply on that email chain. Shoot one out to me or your local IMI guy to tackle for you. All right, I'll give it just another moment here. If anybody is rapidly typing on their keyboard, they're trying to get a question into the chat or looking for that mute button, I'll give them just another minute, and then I'll release you guys to the rest of your morning. All right, folks. Well, I do want to thank everybody for staying on, and so many of you guys for staying for the Q&A. I really do appreciate you giving me the time. I'm going to have a chance later to download this, start editing this. So I will have a link available to a YouTube version that you can review and catch up on. So I appreciate you guys taking the time, and I'll try to have that off for you by tomorrow if I can. Worst case Thursday. You should see that in your inboxes, and along with probably info on the next topic as well. We're going to be doing a nice review of Cloud View Access Control. So I'll have some info for you guys on the next session. So thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it and the well wishes. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday. I hope you get to enjoy some good weather like I get up here in New England today. And you have a nice day. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk soon.